My first introduction to Kosovo, along with some of the guys in the room, was with the aid convoys that travel out there and take various goods to Kosovo. And I know I can speak for myself, but I think I do speak for others, that where we see value in taking clothing and furniture and stuff for schools, some of us needed to get involved with projects that were slightly more long-lasting, where we could leave behind perhaps skills or equipment or ideas that would continue even when we came home. And it was really, I think Elizabeth, Celia and Graham first introduced me to the Ideas Partnership, and Elizabeth, and you came to speak to my then Rotary Club, didn't you, about the Ideas Partnership, but also we spoke about the physio project. And I am a physiotherapist, and Elizabeth told me about a group of special needs children that were really in need of some extra help, albeit they did have some, but it would be nice to have a project actually running at the Ideas Partnership itself. And I said, but well, I'm a musculoskeletal therapist, I deal with back pain and if you've had your knee replaced, I might be your person. I haven't worked for years and years and years with children with special needs. But Elizabeth said any physio is better than no physio. So I don't know what the authorities this end and the special interest groups that are sort of the neuropaediatric physio specialists would say about MSK physio getting involved. But hey, they don't need to know. They don't need to know. I'm not going to tell them if you're not. And we're not breaking any rules or anything, it's just that I'm not a specialist. Like the teacher was saying, she's not a specialist. I am not a specialist. I am just somebody who's passionate about physiotherapy and what it can do. And it's very nice to have got involved with a group of children. Now, my slideshow, thank you, Graham, for changed it. My slideshow, I was going to say, can we just run that in a minute?
I'm sorry.
Can we just run that in a minute? I'll come back to that in a minute. I'll just give you a bit of background, because I actually haven't seen my slideshow. I'm just going to wing it completely, because my friends that are good at IT have put it together for me. Apparently the children did receive physiotherapy at the Handy Cost Centre, but then the funding came to an end, and it was suggested that perhaps it should have been done in-house, or it could be done in-house at the Ideas Partnership. And that was started off with some funding from the Raiffeisen Bank. And they have a physiotherapist called Erletta, who is a paediatric physio, and she visits the centre for a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours every Saturday morning. And she is an excellent physio, she really is. She's in a paid role, I think, isn't she? And sometimes her brother joins her, and he's a student physio. So they have some really, really good specialist input every week. But obviously, with physiotherapy and with children, their neurological systems are so plastic that it's actually their advantage if that physio can carry on a daily basis. So once a week is great, but it's not ideal. So Rabia, who Elizabeth has referred to before, has become involved with Erletta and more recently with myself to become our assistant. And that young lady, she wants to now be a physio, and I think that's got to be one of our aims, bursary, whatever, because she has completely embraced the role, and she has soaked up what we can tell her. Obviously we can only teach her a bit, we can't teach her all the anatomy and the physiology and everything, but we can show her what to do. We can show her the position of our hands that would assist rather than create a problem, and she has absolutely taken on board everything we have said. Another advantage that she's got is that she is a part of that community, so the children trust her. She coerces them into coming into the centre for their physio sessions, and the differences that I've seen in those children from my visit in October to this Easter was absolutely remarkable. For the minimal equipment that they have, for the sort of basic treatment they're getting, it was just, well, heartwarming. It was just, I was overcome by it really. So if you think about how difficult the lives of those people are in that community, how marginalised they are, how they're really up against it in every aspect of their their living and those children in their development, add into that special needs. And if you've got a special need, which means that you can't move properly, and you're in that environment, your life is going nowhere. So if we can change the way they can move, it changes the way that they can integrate, it changes the way that others accept them, then we're setting them hopefully on a pathway that is more positive, and I'm sure it is, isn't it, for them. So I'm sorry I'm jumping about a bit here, but I didn't want to just read a script because I feel really passionate about how it should be individualised. So I'm going to talk you through some of the slides. I'm not going to talk about conditions or anything. I'm just going to show you some of the children and hopefully with some of the before and afters. Now this little fellow, you've met him before because this is the child of the family with the window, isn't it? Now this is the way they wrap their babies up, but this child is 5 or 6, isn't he? And he's still being wrapped up in this sort of cocoon cradle because that's the environment he lives in. Now going back to the plastic neurological system and the way our babies crawl on the floor and learn to sit and they learn to stand and they coast, that child is never ever going to go through that process in that environment that he lives in, and with some of the cultural, what would you call that, the cultural practices that they use. And the mum can't cope with him in any other way. So this is one of the children who is receiving physiotherapy. I didn't actually catch up with him because I have to say I don't know how he's coming along.
I know he's coming every week, which
is
so
really, really good. Yeah. What, to Rabia?
Yeah.
So that's good because the mother would trust Rabia, wouldn't she? So if we could go on, Elizabeth. This was a little girl who has cerebral palsy. We took out some equipment. The green ball she's sitting on is called a peanut ball. It's like a gym ball, but it's sort of flattened. It's almost as if it's a gym ball blown up with a cuff around the middle, so it's easier for children to sit on. And when she first sat on it, she was so nervous. She has a problem down the right side of her body, so her hand was quite contracted. So we got her prone lying over the ball to try and get her back extensors working and to try and stretch out that right upper limb. And I think, Gran, you blew those up, didn't you? You stood for about an hour, didn't you?
That's why I got a hold on my chest.
Yeah, that's why I needed all those inhalers.
So if you could, next slide, please. And this was a little girl who also got cerebral palsy, and this was October, and hopefully you'll see some. Oh, actually, you've done that. Well done. So the first child we saw is this little girl in my second picture here, and she's actually using that right upper limb to clean the mat before they start. And this is the other thing they do, they clean the equipment, the children clean the equipment before they start their session. They don't do that here. So, but she's using her affected limb there. This was back in October, and this child had changed in this manner as well. The little girl in the third picture is a child that I believe had an injury to her elbow, her left elbow, and it probably happened when she was a baby. Obviously I didn't have any access to records or anything, but I do believe she had something called a pulled elbow. Now in this country it's a fairly common injury seen in accident and emergency. If a child is picked up or handled, a little bit roughly, I don't mean assault, I mean sort of rough play or picked up by their arms, they can dislocate a ligament in their elbow, which means they cannot move the joint either way, and the elbow is quite complex. We perform lots of movements around that area, and I believe that she'd had that injury, but it had never been treated because who's going to pick up on it? So when I saw her in October, she had no movement at all. Her elbow was fixed at about 90 degrees. She couldn't prone supinate her forearm, which meant that she never used the hand, so she had quite a wasted forearm and hand. And now she's cleaning the mat with her affected arm. So that was real progress, that's good. So this was the first little girl we saw who was very nervous about sitting on the gym ball. And now you can see the confidence in her just changed. In fact, she changed the first week, didn't she, Graham?
Fantastic.
She completely changed. And now they're using this equipment. Oh, this is the child with the pulled elbow pumping up the football with the affected arm. So, yeah. Oh, this is Rabia. This is our assistant Rabia, the young girl in the black there, she's excellent, that girl. How old is she?
21.
21. She's so good. And the confidence in her as well.
Yeah, she's
Amazing.
Really blossomed,
Yeah. I think that was Ali there as
Yeah,
well,
it was.
wasn't it? That was Ali. Yeah. So these are just slides of how we sort of go through progression of asking these children to assume different positions and perform different movements, and make them unbalanced really. So they have to bring in a lot of reactions in their neuromuscular system. So we'll buy step on that. Oh, this is the same child. This is Valletta.
No, it's strangler.
But what we're doing there is we're getting her to outstretch her upper limbs while she's in prone lying, while she's in a vulnerable, unbalanced position, and that will bring on an enormous amount of activity in all those anti-gravity muscles that will help her to be upright. And this was the first child you saw. She's progressed amazingly.
And her smiles, just so
Yeah.
she
Yeah,
was
look at
like
that,
she
from
was
that
expecting.
nervous look in the beginning. And she's going to school,
Yeah,
isn't she?
yeah,
She's
that's
going to, I think she's going to school
Yeah,
as
she
well.
is.
Yeah, so it's enabled them to integrate.
The
children.
Rhaenyra actually, sorry, the one, the
Yeah.
left-hand picture, she's one of the Duchess's children who was allowed into school as a result of that Duchess
Is she?
visit. Yeah.
So that's excellent. Oh, this is a little girl that we first met as a baby, Graham. Do you remember? Little flippy baby. And this is Eletta. This is the physio that works on a Saturday. She really is a good physio. And she's really committed, isn't she? She doesn't stop while
No,
she's
really confident.
really good. Oh, there's Minessa. And there's some cushions I took out for Minessa, which are like beanbag cushions where you can mould them and then you can extract the air to make them bespoke. So she's gone home with those. So that's just a little insight into the work that's being done. And, you know, and I've had 2 snapshots of that really, and Eletta progresses that on a weekly basis and instructs Rabia, and then I just dip in and out when I can. But it's a privilege to work with the Ideas Partnership and with these children, and the difference is absolutely amazing. And physio rocks, but these children roll. And long may the physio project continue.
Thank you for making it happen.